Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about a mineral race that we are witnessing going on across the world between major countries of the world such as India, China and United States. So one of the minerals where the race is being seen is the copper. Now, how the race is going to unfold in the future, why the race has started and what is the significance of copper especially for the industrial purposes, let us try to understand in this more detail. Now, recently the government of India, the more precisely the Ministry of Mines, have started securing of a very large block, almost of 9,000 square kilometer, to explore both copper and cobalt metallic minerals in a region of Zambia. Zambia, as you know, is a country situated in South Africa, which is known for high-grade deposit of these minerals. Now, with production in domestic mines faltering is one of the reasons why government is now looking outside of India, and the project is a crucial step for India to establish overseas mining operation. In this context also, under the President Trump's administration, he has signed an executive order where he is trying to understand that how the over-reliance of United States on foreign copper could jeopardize the interest of US, especially in the sector of defense, infrastructure development, as well as in the technological innovation. Now, here we have to understand that China exert a sheer dominance when it comes to the copper production across the world, because it controls about half of the world's smelting and refining capacity. And what we are seeing and witnessing is a kind of tussle between US and China, where US want to overtake China or at least become a dominant player in the overall smelting of the copper. Now, we talk about the significance of copper mining. It is expected, and many of the organizations such as BHP, one of the major or lead smelter of copper across the world, it has stated that in the coming future, the demand for the copper is going to rise across all the major economies, whether it is US, China and India. In this context, it has stated that the major sector which is going to push the demand for copper is electric vehicle batteries, because you know that we are promoting green energy. We can say we are promoting green energy, and electric vehicles is one of the major segment there. Clean energy technology, whether it is solar technology, wind energy technology, all of these are projected to outstrip the supply of coppers from the mines that we have today by the year 2035. That means the supply will be less and the demand will be more. If you talk about the domestic situation of India itself, it is believed that the India will see or witness a growth of 5 times in the demand of copper over the next 25 years. Globally, if we talk about the copper demand is expected to increase by a humongous amount of 70% by the mid of the century. So all these largely tells us that there is an urgent need that need to be urgent decision that need to be taken by the India to ensure that it is able to meet the supply or demand of the copper in the coming days. Now, the major factors that can contribute to the demand or the rising demand of copper, obviously apart from electrical vehicle and the clean energy, is the artificial intelligence, where the large number of data centers are going to be open in the future. Focus on the decarbonization initiative also, we can say, is going to be a major factor. Now, countries such as India, China, United States, these are scrambling to secure supply chains and strengthen their domestic capabilities. And it is expected that in the coming time, we will see the race that has begun today is going to become much more intense in the nature, at least by the mid of the current century. Now, we also have to understand the reason why this race has begun and the competition is going to increase is because the copper reserves are not uniformly distributed across the world, obviously as similar like the other minerals, and most of the world's copper are concentrated in a few pockets of a few countries. For example, we talk about at the global scale, the Chile, that is a country in South America, holds the highest amount of copper reserve, that is expected to be somewhere about 190 million metric tons. At the second number, then you have Peru, which is a neighboring country of Chile in the South America, with 120 million ton. Then you have other countries such as Australia, then you have Russia, Mexico, US, Indonesia, China, DRC, Zambia. So these 10 countries together hold more than 80% of the global copper reserves. Unfortunately, we talk about in case of India, the copper reserves are very limited in nature. And India, if we talk about within India, we have few regions such as Amarkantak mines in the Madhya Pradesh. So Madhya Pradesh is the largest producer of copper today in India. Then you have Rajasthan, where you have Khetri mines, which has been in operation for a very long duration of time. And then you have Udaipur, in the Rajasthan, and then in the Singhbhum region of Jharkhand and Hazaribagh region of Jharkhand is where most of the copper deposits of India lies. And obviously, if we talk about the mines of India, the copper mines of India more specifically, the government of India has classified it as a critical mineral. And in terms of production, if we try to look, the domestic production in the last year was somewhere about 3.7 million tons, which is 8% lower than in 2018-2019. So this is where you can see the problem that lies, because we are expecting that in the future, India's demand for the copper is going to rise significantly. On the other hand, our supply is, rather than increasing, it is decreasing. So this is an area of concern. Stagnant domestic core production is something that also is a concern raised, because if you talk about the Hindustan Copper Limited, the major public sector company of India, which is involved in the copper extraction, its production in the last few years has seen to be stagnant in nature. And that is why, to meet the demand of copper today, India has to largely rely on the imports from different countries. And this is something that we can see from the graph. If you look at the year 2017-2018, the export of copper from India was higher than the import. 370,000 and 379,000 tons was the export volume, and 44,000 tons was only the import volume. Now, this situation has significantly changed today. If we talk about the year 22-23, India has imported about 181,000 tons of copper, and on the other hand has exported only 30,000 tons of copper. So India today has become a net importer of copper. So though if talk about deposits, we have deposits of copper, but the problem is that these extraction from these minerals, this mineral deposit require extensive exploration before mining can commence. And if you look at the global value, we see generally once a copper mine is explored, it takes about 17 years for that mine to become operational in nature. So in many regions of India where we have copper reserves, we are not able to extract because it will take a lot of time, maybe 1 and 2 decades. So that is why we are falling behind as far as the demand supply gap in the copper is concerned. Now, obviously, as we can understand, the domestic supply of copper cannot meet the demand of India in the coming time. So India has to secure both domestic as well as overseas investment. And in that context, government has decided to secure both greenfield as well as brownfield mineral assets in the copper-rich countries such as Zambia, Chile, and the DRC. All of these countries, such as Zambia, as we know, is in Africa. DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, is also in Africa. And then you have Chile, which is the country having largest copper reserves in the Latin America. Greenfield and brownfield mineral assets simply mean the greenfield asset is that which you have to develop from the scratch, where you do not have any kind of what you can call as extraction that has been done earlier. While the brownfield mineral reserves or mineral assets refer to such assets where extraction has occurred in the past, and then India can take over this mine and can begin extraction as per its own demand and as per its own rate. So both greenfield and brownfield kind of assets are what government of India has been eyeing about. Now, it is not only because of the shortage of copper in India. The reason why government is interested in African copper mine is also because of the quality. If we talk about the deposits of the copper in countries such as Zambia, DRC, the copper is typically of higher grade than in India. Second, the faster project development is something that also we are seeing in African countries, largely because their extensive focus is on mining for the revenue generation. So because of these two additional factors also, it becomes interesting for Indian companies to invest there. However, the problem also arises because we know that most of time, a lot of African countries which are having rich mineral deposits, they face a political uncertainty because there is a clashes that has been reported. For example, civil war is something that has become very common in many of such mineral rich African countries. So obviously, if Indian companies invest there, you cannot be 100% sure that 10-20 years down the line, our investment can be safe and secure. So obviously, it carries a significant geopolitical risk as such. So this is something that also we have to bear in mind. Now, the spotlight of India is not, it is not only the India's spotlight that is on Africa, but many countries across the world are eyeing the mineral resources of Africa to enrich themselves and to supply for their industry. So, share of Africa in the production of critical minerals such as copper, lithium, and natural graphite is rising and is expected to rise at much more higher rate in the coming time. The content, if we talk about African content entirely, it already accounts for 70% of global cobalt production. Cobalt, as you know, is a very, very important metallic mineral that is being used these days in the manufacturing of photovoltaic cell, that is being used in the electrical vehicles and all that. And about 16% of the global copper production. If we talk about the countries, more specifically the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, a Central African country, this is going to become the world's second largest copper supplier by the year 2030. This is the report that is given by the International Energy Agency. So very, very credible report, we can say. It states that DRC is going to be major country with copper production, and that is why government also is eyeing to secure some of the minerals in this particular area. Apart from that, Zambia, we already have discussed, the government of India has acquired 9,000 square kilometer of block here. Plus, Namibia and South Africa are some other nearby countries where in the future government can try to acquire the minerals. Now we talk about the India's investment, 9,000 square kilometer block, that is government to government based contract in the Zambia. Neighboring region that is called as Copper Belt Province, the private company of India called as Vedanta Group. It owns also a large copper mine, and this is something where the Geological Survey of India in the first phase is going to carry out exploration. After the exploration phase, then the extraction phase will commence, and then India will be able to get the mineral raw materials in this case. If we talk about the Ministry of Mines of India, it is also trying to negotiate to gain access to and have control over many minerals and the we can say mines over Africa in the countries such as DRC, Tanzania, Mozambique and Rwanda, and it has deputed many of the nodal officers who are working along with the Indian embassies in these countries. And the major objective of Ministry of Mines is obviously to acquire more critical mineral assets for exploration, and but competition from other countries will remain fierce, because you know that in these days, especially after the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia is trying to enter into the African territory. Many of the countries where you have the French and German control or influence, we can say, it is seen to be waning in the last couple of years, and Russia has entered as a security provider in these countries. Similarly, China for past 1 or 2 decades has continuously been engaged in the development of these countries and is eyeing mineral resources. So US, obviously they have a dominant role to play there. So the Western countries, US, European Union, then you have Russia, China, all these countries are where India will face a stiff competition, where it has to secure the interest. Now, as far as the China and the Trump is concerned, I told you in the beginning of video, Trump has signed an executive order where he has asked to submit a report explaining that how copper imports threaten America's national security and economic stability. As far as the report of Department of Defense, the Pentagon is concerned, it has clearly stated that the copper plays a vital role in the defense applications and infrastructure, as well as emerging technology like clean energy, electric vehicles and advanced electronics. And also Defense Department of US itself is the second for that department, the second most utilized material is none other but the copper itself. So you can understand that copper plays a very significant role in many sectors of US, and US does not want to become import dependent, at least as far as these minerals are concerned. So China, on the other hand, if we talk about, has a global dominance, controlling over 50% of global smelting, while US does not figure in the top 4 and 5. And this we can understand from the production of copper in the year 2023. The top producer of the copper, if you look, again, you have the Chile, which is also having the largest copper reserve of the world. Then you have the Peru, China, then you have countries such as Congo. So these are the major copper producers. And then you have the Western countries, talk about US, Canada, Australia. These countries then are the lead producer of copper after the first few. So that is how we can understand the production of copper across the world. In conclusion, what we can say, that as far as the US is concerned, there is going to be a study on the vulnerability of the copper supply chain, and the committee will make recommendations on how potential tariff can be applied, how export control can be exercised, and how certain incentives can be provided to increase domestic production of copper in US. Similarly, on the other hand, the China's problem is quite different. Since China has been a dominant player in copper production for quite some period of time, the problem that it is facing today is of overcapacity. So China is trying to bring down the overcapacity, or to reduce the overcapacity, and the advantage of this reduction will be that the custom concentrate market will come back into the balance. So both of these countries are taking divergent approach or different approach to secure their interest as far as the copper supply is concerned. So that is all about this particular video. I hope you understood that why so many countries are eyeing for a vital resource such as copper and how this race is going to play out in the near future. So if you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you very much.